Hello again. Welcome back. My name continues to be David. These continue to be the Turtle Talks, companion material to my book, The Turtle Book, that you can find on Amazon, if that is your taste. The last couple times, we've been talking quite a bit about the importance of point of view, and that it might define a whole lot of your universe. And maybe you could simplify that down to attitude, but no matter how you slice it and dice it, that energy, whether you consider it to be just a mental, energetic thing, or whether you look at it the way that Carlos Castaneda looks at it, where the Yaqui Indians of Central America see us as luminous eggs with a swirling eye spot, it's an actual physical feature. Whichever of those you see it as, a mental concept or a physical actual manifestation, it's fantastically important in a universe that's made of light. When you are light, when everything around you is light, it's all conscious, which sort of leads to the whole idea of being connected to and made in the image of God. Maybe that's not the way that we've thought about that in terms of a biblical idea, where it's typically we see God as, a head and two hands and two arms, two legs. But maybe if we as souls in our truest essence are beings of light and consciousness, then maybe God is, by sort of osmosis and connection there, by implication, also a being of light and consciousness. And so if God is this being of light and consciousness, and you are also, what sorts of things might you have in common? The first and most obvious thing would seem to be this creation thing, right? That we, even on a level that we can see, we create our lives, we make choices, we have relationships, we get jobs, we choose houses or whatever, we make these decisions that create our lives. So maybe there's sort of a conceptual connection there between your creative stuff that you do as a soul in your lifetime and the creative stuff that God does as its true nature, his or her true nature, however you choose to look at that. So maybe there's a few different aspects to that. One would be sort of an understanding of God, and then another might be a clearer understanding of you and what might be the purpose of you coming down here as an energetic being and having this physical experience, and maybe in fact doing it more than once, right? Maybe if you've come down here and manifested one time, maybe you've done it more than once. Maybe there's a sort of cyclical thing that goes on, reincarnation, right? Maybe what you create in your life has a bigger theme based on who you are as a soul, and maybe somehow connecting with these ideas, with this bigger being that you are, with its bigger pictures. Maybe that can help you make life decisions, right? So there are some things that we will follow up on in the future, but another aspect of that is this sort of natural kind of connection that you have with God being a creator and God's process. When you as an artist, any kind of creator, when you create something, the first thing you have to do is have a space in which to create it. You need a canvas on which to paint, or a little stand on which to do your sculpting and your molding, or whatever the thing is that you choose to create. The first thing you have to do is in effect create a space for it, right? So that immediately sets you up as a creator with a sort of dual aspect, which is one, this sort of outpouring of energy, this creation, and then the space that receives all of that energy, right? So that you could picture that as the yin-yang sign that we see so much, where one side is light and one side is darkness. You can think of it not in terms of light and dark, but just in terms of the creative force and then the receiver of whatever that creative force puts out, right? Unconditionally, whatever it is that creative force puts out, this space, this canvas receives it. Well, we do have an idea on Earth of something that we call unconditionally receiving something, and that idea is love. So maybe, sort of flipping that around, this canvas, the space into which God creates, isn't just this inert, empty space. Maybe love is contained within that space, the unconditional receiver. And of course, love has plenty of energy in it. And most of that energy is, that was interesting. Couldn't it be a little better? Couldn't what you did just be a little bit nicer? So every time creative force puts out something, love goes, ooh, yeah, it was a little bit sticky, but couldn't you kind of maybe do it like this? And wouldn't it be better? Right? Love certainly seems to be quite close to the idea of better. And so if you are a creator and you're putting something out into an unconditional receiver, and this receiver keeps saying, could you do it a little better? And then you do it a little better. And then the receiver says, could you do it a little better? And then you do it a little better. What you get is this endless cycle of improvement. It's also called evolution, right? So maybe, like you, God puts everything out and then sort of evolves as he, she, it gets feedback on what happens and observes itself and goes, wow, cool, I will try and do better and have more love in my thing. Maybe that's a fundamental theme to living a good life, right? One of the 7 principles that I live by, I'll talk about more of them in more detail later, but one of them is to make your decisions based in love, not fear, right? So those two things are definitely fundamental opposites. And maybe that's a key to interpreting your life better, improving your point of view, having that stuff all get cleaned up in there. Maybe love is one of the elements that you really want to have for clarity's sake in your point of view. And then having love in your point of view is going to help you respond to things better. It's going to help you create things better. And if that sort of process of putting out creative force and letting love do some work on it and feed it back and have that cycle go around and have you improve and evolve, if you're going through that process and that is God's process as well, then you really are living as the image of God, and you are as close as you could possibly get to living your soul path in alignment with everything that we've been talking about. Right? Because there's no question, if you as a human are, if your soul exists as a consciousness and maybe connected to reincarnation or whatever, it had some theme, that there might have been a purpose for you coming down here. And we're going to talk more about how to discover that in the future. But if your soul came down here for a purpose, it absolutely serves you to be able to connect with whatever that purpose is, right? If your soul thinks something and your brain thinks something else, odds are your brain's going to lose. So if you can put your brain in alignment with whatever your soul desires are, then maybe that's another really good way to be able to make sure that you're moving forward in the right direction and that your life is going to improve and your choices are going to get better and that everything is just going to improve overall in your life. Maybe that's one of the keys. And if this whole process of creative force and love is critical to that whole thing, then the more that you put your mind frame in that way of looking at things, the more that you can get that into your point of view, the closer you're going to be to having a happier life. We'll talk more about that. I'll be back. Have a great day. Aloha.